Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to reading you a couple of selections from the wonderful book, Awareness, the Perils and Opportunities of Reality by Anthony De Mello. Today, we're going to be reading chapters 28 to 30. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Chapter 28, Change as Greed. That still leaves us with a big question. Do I do anything to change myself? I've got a big surprise for you. Lots of good news. You don't have to do anything. The more you do, the worse it gets. All you have to do is understand. Think of somebody you are living with or working with whom you do not like, who causes negative feelings to arise in you. You are responsible for the negative feeling, not the other person. Someone else in your place would be perfectly calm and at ease in the presence of this person. They wouldn't be affected. You are. Now, understand another thing, that you're making a demand. You have an expectation of this person. Can you get in touch with that? Then say to this person, I have no right to make any demands on you. I'm saying that you will drop your expectations. I have no right to make any demands on you. Oh, I'll protect myself from the consequences of your actions or your moods or whatever, but you can go right ahead and be what you choose to be. I have no right to make any demands on you. See what happens to you when you do this? If there's a resistance to saying it, how much you're going to discover about your me. Let the dictator in you come out. Let the tyrant come out. You thought you were such a little lamb, didn't you? But I'm a tyrant, and you're a tyrant. A little variation on I'm an ass, you're an ass. I'm a dictator, you're a dictator. I want to run your life for you. I want to tell you exactly how you're expected to be and how you're expected to behave. And you better behave as I decide, or I shall punish myself by having negative feelings. Remember what I told you? Everybody's a lunatic. A woman told me her son had gotten an award at his high school. It was for excellence in sports and academics. She was happy for him, but was almost tempted to say to him, don't glory in that award because it's setting you up for the time when you can't perform as well. She was in a dilemma. How to prevent his future disillusionment without bursting his bubble now. Hopefully he'll learn as she herself grows in wisdom. It's not a matter of anything she says to him. It's something that eventually she will become. Then she will understand. Then she will know what to say and when to say it. That award was a result of competition, which can be cruel if it is built on hatred of oneself and of others. People get a good feeling on the basis of somebody getting a bad feeling. You win over somebody else. Isn't that terrible? Take it for granted in a lunatic asylum. There's an American doctor who wrote about the effect of competition on his life. He went to medical school in Switzerland, and there was a fairly large contingent of Americans at that school. He said some of the students went into shock when they realized that there were no grades. There were no awards. There was no dean's list, no first or second in the class at that school. You either passed or you didn't. He said some of us just couldn't take it. We became almost paranoid. We thought there must be some kind of trick here. So some of them went to another school. Those who survived suddenly discovered a strange thing that they had never noticed at American universities. Students, brilliant ones, helping others to pass, sharing notes. His son goes to medical school in the United States and tells him that. In the lab, people often tamper with the microscope so that it'll take the next student 3 or 4 minutes to readjust it. Competition. They have to succeed. They have to be perfect. And he tells a lovely little story, which he says is factual, but it could also serve as a beautiful parable. There was a little town in America where people gathered in the evening to make music. They had a saxophonist, a drummer, and a violinist. Mostly old people. They got together for the company and for the sheer joy of making music. Though they didn't do it very well, so they were enjoying themselves, having a great time until one day they decided to get a new conductor who had a lot of ambition and drive. The new conductor told them, hey folks, we have a concert. We have to prepare for a concert for the town. Then he gradually got rid of some of the people who didn't play too well, hired a few professional musicians, got an orchestra into shape, and they all got their names in the newspaper. Wasn't that wonderful? So they decided to move to the big city and play there. But some of the old people had tears in their eyes. They said it was so wonderful in the old days when we did things badly and enjoyed them. So cruelty came into their lives, but nobody recognized it as cruelty. See how lunatic people have become? Some of you asked me what I meant when I said, you go ahead and be yourself. That's all right, but I'll protect myself. I'll be myself. In other words, I won't allow you to manipulate me. I'll live my life. I'll go my own way. I'll keep myself free to think my thoughts, to follow my inclinations and tastes, and I'll say no to you if I feel I don't want to be in your company, and it won't be because of any negative feelings you cause in me, because you don't have any more. You don't have any more power over me. I simply might prefer other people's company. So when you say to me, how about a movie tonight? I'll say, sorry, I want to go with someone else. I enjoy his company more than you. And that's all right. To say no to people, that's wonderful. That's part of waking up. Part of waking up is that you live your life as you see fit and understand. That is not selfish. The selfish thing is to demand that someone else lives their life as you see fit. That's selfish. It is not selfish to live your life as you see fit. The selfishness lies in demanding that someone else live their life to suit your tastes, or your pride, or your profit, or your pleasure. That is truly selfish. So I'll protect myself. I won't feel obligated to be with you. I won't feel obligated to say yes to you. If I find your company pleasant, then I'll enjoy it without clinging to it. But I no longer avoid you because of any negative feelings you create in me. You don't have that power anymore. Awakening should be a surprise. When you don't expect something to happen and it happens, you feel surprise. When Webster's wife caught him kissing the maid, she told him she was very surprised. Now, Webster was a stickler for using words accurately, understandably since he wrote a dictionary. So he answered her, no, my dear, I am surprised. You are astonished. Some people make awakening a goal. They are determined to get there. They say, I refuse to be happy until I'm awakened. In that case, it's better to be the way you are, simply to be aware of the way you are. Simple awareness is happiness compared with trying to react all the time. People react so quickly because they are not aware. You will come to understand that there are times when you will inevitably react, even in awareness. But as awareness grows, you react less and act more. It really doesn't matter. There's a story of a disciple who told his guru that he was going to a far place to meditate and hopefully attain enlightenment. So he sent the guru a note every 6 months to report the progress he was making. The first report said, now I understand what it means to lose the self. The guru tore up the note and threw it in the waste paper basket. After 6 months, he got another report which said, now I have attained sensitivity to all beings. He tore it up. Then a third report said, now I understand the secret of the one and the many. It too was torn up, and so it went on for years, until finally no reports came in. After a time, the guru became curious, and one day there was a traveler going to the far place. The guru said, why don't you find out what happened to that fellow? Finally, he got a note from his disciple. It said, what does it matter? And when the guru read that, he said, he made it, he finally got it, he got it. And there's the story about a soldier on the battlefield who would simply drop his rifle to the ground, pick up a scrap of paper lying there and look at it. Then he would let it flutter from his hands to the ground, and then he'd move somewhere else and do the same thing. So others said, this man is exposing himself to death. He needs help. So they put him in the hospital and got the best psychiatrist to work on him. But it seemed to have no effect. He wandered around the wards, picking up scraps of paper, looking at them idly, and letting them flutter to the ground. And then they said, we've got to discharge this man from the army. So they call him and give him a discharge certification. And he idly picks it up, looks at it, and shouts, this is it, this is it. He finally got it. So begin to be aware of your present condition, whatever that condition is. Stop being a dictator. Stop trying to push yourself somewhere. Then someday you will understand that simply by awareness, you have already attained what you are pushing yourself toward. That concludes Chapter 28, Change as Greed. Chapter 29, A Changed Person. In your pursuit of awareness, don't make demands. It's more like obeying the traffic rules. If you don't observe the traffic rules, you pay the penalty. Here in the United States, you drive on the right side of the road. In England, you drive on the left. In India, you drive on the left. If you don't, you pay the penalty. There is no room for hurt feelings or demands or expectations. You just abide by the traffic rules. You ask where compassion comes in, where guilt comes in all this. You'll know when you're awake. If you're feeling guilty right now, how on earth can I explain it to you? How would you know what compassion is? Sometimes people want to imitate Christ by imitating his external behavior. You've got to be Christ. Then you'll know exactly what to do in a particular situation, given your temperament, your character, and the character and temperament of the person you're dealing with. No one has to tell you, but to do that, you must be what Christ was. An external imitation will get you nowhere. If you think that compassion implies softness, there's no way I can describe compassion to you. Absolutely no way. Because compassion can be very hard. Compassion can be very rude. Compassion can jolt you. Compassion can roll up its sleeves and operate on you. Compassion is all kinds of things. Compassion can be very soft, but there's no way of knowing that. It's only when you become love. In other words, when you have dropped your illusions and attachments, that you will know. As you identify less and less with the I, you will be more at ease with everybody and everything. Do you know why? Because you are no longer afraid of being hurt or not liked. You no longer desire to impress anyone. Can you imagine the relief when you don't have to impress anybody anymore? Oh, what a relief. Happiness at last. You no longer feel the need or the compulsion to explain things anymore. It's all right. What is there to be explained? You don't feel the need or compulsion to apologize anymore. I'd much rather hear you say, I've come awake, than hear you say, I'm sorry. I'd much rather hear you say to me, I've come awake since we last met. What I did to you won't happen again, than to hear you say, I'm so sorry for what I did to you. Why would anyone demand an apology? You have something to explore in that. Even when someone supposedly was mean to you, there is no room for apology. Nobody was mean to you. Somebody was mean to what he or she thought was you, but not to you. Nobody ever rejects you. They're only rejecting what they think you are. But that cuts both ways. Nobody ever accepts you either, until people come awake. They are simply accepting or rejecting their image of you. They fashioned an image of you, and they're rejecting or accepting that. See how devastating it is to go deeply into that? It's a bit too liberating. But how easy is it to love people when you understand this? How easy is it to love everyone when you don't identify with what they imagine you are or they are? It becomes easy to love them, to love everybody. I observe me, but I don't think about me, because the thinking me does a lot of bad thinking too. But when I watch me, I am constantly aware that this is a reflection. In reality, you don't really think of I and me. You're like a person driving the car. He doesn't ever want to lose consciousness of the car. It's all right to daydream, but not lose consciousness of your surroundings. You must always be alert. It's like a mother sleeping. She doesn't hear the planes roaring above the house, but she hears the slightest whimper of her baby. She's alert, she's awake in that sense. One cannot say anything about the awakened state. One can only talk about the sleeping state. One hints at the awakened state. One cannot say anything about happiness. Happiness cannot be defined. What can be defined is misery. Drop unhappiness and you will know. Love cannot be defined. Unlove can. Drop unlove, drop fear, and you will know. We want to find out what the awakened person is like, but you'll only know when you get there. Am I implying, for example, that we shouldn't make demands on our children? What I said was you don't have a right to make any demands. Sooner or later that child is going to have to get rid of you, in keeping with the injunction of the Lord. And you're going to have no rights over him at all. In fact, he really isn't your child, and he never was. He belongs to life, not to you. No one belongs to you. What you're talking about is a child's education. If you want lunch, you better come in between 12 and 1, or you don't get lunch, period. That's the way things are run here. You don't come in on time, you don't get your lunch. You're free, that's true, but you must take the consequences. When I talk about not having expectations of others or not making demands on them, I mean expectations and demands for my well-being. The President of the United States obviously has to make demands on people. The traffic policeman obviously has to make demands on people. But those are demands on their behavior. Traffic laws, good organizations, the smooth running of society, they are not intended to make the president or traffic policeman feel good. That's the end of chapter 29, entitled A Changed Person. Let's begin chapter 30, Arriving at Silence. Everyone asks me about what will happen when they finally arrive. Is this just curiosity? We're always asking how this would fit into that system, or whether this would make sense in that context, or what it will feel like when we get there. Get started and you will know. It cannot be described. It is said widely in the East, those who know do not say, those who say do not know. It cannot be said. Only the opposite can be said. The guru cannot give you the truth. Truth cannot be put into words, into a formula. That isn't the truth. That isn't reality. Reality cannot be put into a formula. The guru can only point out your errors. When you drop your errors, you will know the truth, and even then you cannot say. This is a common teaching among the great Catholic mystics. The great Thomas Aquinas, toward the end of his life, wouldn't write and wouldn't talk. He had seen. I had thought he had kept that famous silence of his for only a couple of months, but it went on for years. He realized that he made a fool of himself, and he said so explicitly. It's as if you had never tasted a green mango and you asked me, what does it taste like? I'd say to you, sour. But in giving you a word, I've put you off the track. Try to understand that. Most people aren't very wise. They seize upon the words of Scripture, for example, and they get it all wrong. Sour, I say, and you ask, sour like vinegar? Sour like a lemon? No, not sour like a lemon, but sour like a mango. But I never tasted one, you say. Too bad. But you go ahead and write a doctoral thesis on it. You wouldn't have if you had tasted it. You really wouldn't. You'd have written a doctoral thesis on other things, but not on mangoes. And the day you finally taste a green mango, you say, God, I made a fool of myself. I should have written that thesis. That's exactly what Thomas Aquinas did. A great German philosopher and theologian wrote a whole book specifically on the silence of St. Thomas. He simply went silent, wouldn't talk. In the prologue of his Summa Theologica, which was the summary of all his theology, he says, about God we cannot say what he is, but rather what he is not. And so we cannot speak about how he is, but rather how he is not. And in his famous commentary on Bothesis, De Sancti Trinitae, he says there are three ways of knowing God. 1, in the creation. 2, in God's action through history. And 3, in the highest form of knowledge of God. To know God. Tanquam ignotum. To know God as the unknown. The highest form of talking about the Trinity is to know that one does not know. Now, this is not an Oriental Zen master speaking. This is a canonized saint of the Roman Catholic Church, the prince of theologians for centuries. To know God as unknown. In another place, St. Thomas even says, as unknowable. Reality, God, divinity, truth, love are all unknowable. That means they cannot be comprehended by the thinking mind. That would be set at rest so many questions people have because we're always living under the illusion that we know. We don't. We cannot know. What is Scripture then? It's a hint, a clue, not a description. The fanaticism of one sincere believer who thinks he knows causes more evil than the united efforts of 200 rogues. It's terrifying to see what sincere believers will do because they think they know. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a world where everybody said, we don't know? One big barrier being dropped. Wouldn't that be marvelous? A man born blind comes to me and asks, what is this thing called green? How does one describe the color green to someone who was born blind? One uses analogies. So I say the color green is something like soft music. Oh, he says, I like soft music. Yes, I say, soothing and soft music. So a second blind man comes to me and asks, what is the color green? I tell it something like soft satin, very soft and soothing to the touch. So the next day I notice that the two blind men are bashing each other over the head with bottles. One is saying, it's soft like music. The other saying, it's soft like satin. And on it goes. Neither of them knows what they're talking about, because if they did, they'd shut up. It's as bad as that. It's even worse, because one day, say you give sight to this blind man, and he's sitting there in a garden, and he's looking all around him, and you say to him, well, now you know what the color green is. And he answers, that's true. I heard some of it this morning. The fact is that you're surrounded by God, but you don't see God, because you know about God. The final barrier to the vision of God is your God concept. You miss God because you think you know. That's the terrible thing about religion. That's what the Gospels were saying. The religious people knew, so they got rid of Jesus. The highest knowledge of God is to know God as unknowable. There's far too much talk about God. The world is sick of it. There's too little awareness, too little love, too little happiness. But let's not use those words either. There's too little droppings of illusions, droppings of errors, dropping of attachments and cruelty. Too little awareness. That's what the world is suffering from, not from lack of religion. Religion is supposed to be about a lack of awareness, of waking up. Look what we've degenerated into. Come to my country and see them killing one another over religion. You'll find it everywhere. The one who knows does not say. The one who says does not know. All revelations, however divine, are never any more than a finger pointing to the moon. As we say in the East, when the sage points to the moon, all the idiots see is the finger. Jean Goutin, a very pious and orthodox French writer, had the terrifying comment, we often use the finger to gouge out eyes. Isn't that terrible? Awareness, awareness, awareness. And awareness is healing. And awareness is truth. And awareness is salvation. And awareness is spirituality. And awareness is growth. And awareness is love. And awareness is awakening. Awareness. I need to talk about words and concepts because I must explain to you why it is. When we look at a tree, we really don't see. We think we do, but we don't. When we look at a person, we really don't see that person. We only think we do. What we're seeing is something that we fixed in our mind. We get an impression and we hold on to that impression and we keep looking at a person through that impression. And we do this with almost everything. If you understand that, you will understand that loveliness and beauty of being aware of everything around you, because reality is there. God, whatever that is there. It's all there. The poor little fish in the ocean says, "Excuse me, I'm looking for the ocean. Can you tell me where I can find it?" Pathetic, isn't it? If we would just open our eyes and see, then we would understand. That concludes today's readings. I just want to take a second and say thank you to everybody for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the readings. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, share it with some friends. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to put a link, an Amazon link in the description. If you're interested in the book and you purchase through the description, that link will help support the channel. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope that you guys have just a wonderful and beautiful day. Thank you so much. Take care now.